Do we feel free? Freedom is in the air. 4th of July, America celebrated her 250th birthday. Freedom is our theme for July here on Wednesday nights. I don't know about you guys, but America seems to be obsessed with freedom, don't you think? We are. We are absolutely obsessed with freedom. In fact, if you go to see our founding documents, they are called the Charters of Freedom, the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights. Literally are in a building structure with the foundation of freedom, the Charters of Freedom. Our earliest spiritual songs were about freedom. Oh, freedom was sung in the fields, and it went all the way through the civil rights movement. We are obsessed with freedoms. Even today, we sing songs about freedom. And there's even research showing that the United States cares more about freedom as an ideal than any other country. We are truly obsessed with it. And here at Centers for Spiritual Living, it is also our foundation. We have a declaration of freedom, and it sounds like this: the ultimate goal of life is complete freedom from all discord of every nature. That is in the Centers for Spiritual Living principles, our statements. It is literally a spiritual promise for us to fulfill the expression of freedom as our life. So, what does Ernest Holmes say about freedom? A little reading from his book called How to Use the Science of Mind. Ernest Holmes is the founder of our philosophy. We do not destroy the laws of life. They are always there, appearing to us when we use them. If we realize that freedom is at the center of our being, no matter how much confusion we may have been experiencing, then the freedom which never departed will become apparent. The freedom does not really assert itself because it never ceased asserting itself. It was always there. We were merely looking at it in a confused manner. If we look at a confused situation until confusion disappears from our consciousness, freedom alone will remain. Any statement about freedom, any realization of its presence will help us. The power is not so much in the statements we use as in the consciousness they induce. These statements help us become aware of that which already is. That's why we pray. That is why we pray, to know the truth that is already there, to remind ourselves that we are free. But the first thing we have to do is we have to be able to feel it. We have to be able to feel that expression of freedom. And I know that a feeling comes first in our body. We live, whatever you believe yourself to be, you are here now in a body. You could actually touch it right now. That's your body, where you are. You're sitting in a chair. You're here in this body. And the body experiences emotions, and the body comes out with actions. And that feeling is primary. It is first. And if we don't get really familiar with that feeling of freedom, it's really easy for that freedom to be infringed upon. We allow ourselves to move into places that don't really match our sense of freedom. And then if we start doing that, we can start infringing upon the freedom of others. Because here's the thing about spiritual principles, they are true always for everyone. You are not free if that is infringing upon others' freedoms. It's just the truth. It's just the way the law works. It's just the way it works. I knew this freedom from a very early age, and I think some of you can probably relate to this. When you're little, you're in your body first, right? You're running out to the woods. Maybe this is just me. Running to the pond, running to the mailbox, chasing after the dog, climbing the trees, swinging in the swings, always total abandon, just primal instinct in the body. This is before these intrusive thoughts start to come in, making up stories about what it means to be in this body. It's just pure feeling sensation. It's primal and it's primary. And we don't necessarily have words for that when we're little, but we know when we're not feeling free. Time to go to school. Time to sit and learn. Sit behind the desk and learn. Time to go to church. We have all of these things that we're told we have to go do. And bam, that doesn't feel very free, does it? So we begin to understand being infringed upon. Then I became a dancer. I was a real body person. Everything needed to be about moving. And so I studied African dance. I learned to get a little shake. I studied jazz dance. I studied ballet. Very serious, but still very free. To be able to have that much expression in my body was delicious freedom. It felt like my purpose was being expressed. And it was full abandon. Then, when I was a teenager, my cousin dove into a body of water. He hit his head and he became a quadriplegic. And to this day, he is still in a wheelchair. He has some upper limb mobility that he has learned through physical therapy. But at that time, what I became faced with was the fact that I couldn't count on my freedom because my freedom was tied to this life in this body and being able to have full range of motion in my limbs, to be able to run as quickly as I wanted, to be able to stop on a dime, to be able to turn on a dime 5 times if I wanted. I could leap into the air and I had so much hang time, I felt like I was flying. But now the fear gripped me. That discord popped into my mind. This could be taken away in an instant. And it was so much for me that I cried myself to sleep thinking about the loss of my freedom in my body. I know it's very dramatic. It's very selfish and very dramatic, but that's where I was at the time. I was a teenager, developmentally appropriate, let's just say. And then, not too much longer after that, Christopher Reeve had his accident. And Christopher Reeve, he fell over his horse when his horse made a jump and he hit his head and broke his spine in a way that he became quadriplegic and had to even be breathed for. So again, this fear is gripping me. But he taught us something that I needed to hear, that we can all learn from about discord. So I'm going to show you the trailer to the movie about his life, so you can be reminded of Christopher Reeve's story. It's about 3 minutes, so get comfy, and Seth's going to show us now.
Everybody's looking for a hero. I am not a hero. That was a part. I played the part. I'm not that man.
Hands down, he was Superman from day one.
I realized that if I could pull off this part, it would change my life.
John Houseman said, Mr. Reeve, it is very important to become a serious classical actor. Unless, of course, they offer you a load of money to do something else.
He convinced me when I first met him that he would fly.
Doing things with my dad. It was all about activity and action. Riding bikes, playing soccer, skiing.
My dad was very competitive, and he didn't necessarily slow down.
We said goodbye, and he gave this wave. That was the last time I saw him on his feet.
Mr. Reeve currently has no movement or spontaneous respiration.
Superman, crazy. Just that simple little thing over the horse.
I'd ruined my life and everybody else's. I won't be able to ski, sail, throw a ball to Will. Won't be able to make love to Dana. Maybe we should let me go.
She came flying in, and she just yelled, "I love you. I love you."
And then she said the words that saved my life. You're still you, and I love you.
He and Robin were such good friends because they could match each other.
Robin also had struggles that he dealt with his whole life, and I think that they both were aware of darkness.
Brother Chris is fighting like crazy. When you find people who fight like that but still keep their humanity, that gives you great hope.
That is tough because I can feel him, but he can't feel me.
It must have been hell for my mom, too, knowing what she had lost.
I felt I needed to do something, not just for myself, but for everyone else in the same condition.
The fact that Superman was in a wheelchair and was willing to go public with it was huge.
Help is on the way.
The Christopher and Dana Reeve Paralysis Act.
People are literally walking because of him.
What is a hero? My answer was that a hero is someone who commits a courageous action without considering the consequences. Now my definition is completely different. I think a hero is an ordinary individual who finds the strength to persevere and endure in spite of overwhelming obstacles.
Wow. Just take a breath with that. Wipe the tears from your eyes. Freedom is not limitation. That's what I began to understand. My body felt freedom, but that was not the only expression of freedom. Freedom is limitless. It is inexhaustible. It is not tied to specific conditions. That's what Ernest Holmes is talking about when he directs us that freedom, ultimate freedom, is a freedom from all discord of any nature. So what was my discord? My discord is the limitation of the feeling of freedom as my body moving. Discord is a cultural condition that we are literally taught based on the culture that we live in. But guess what? We are creating the culture. We are the culture makers. We get to decide freedom. We get to live as we are free, despite any condition. We have to be with what is. You know, there was a time when let me go back. We can label experiences anything we want. We can label conditions anything we want. There was a time when being overweight was the ideal. You were considered to be extra feminine. You were the example of wealth and health if you were portly. But what does our culture say about being overweight now? And how many people are experiencing discord because we are being told an idea, and that makes us have a story about discord. And so we don't feel free. What are you able to be with? James Baldwin says, "Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced." Nothing can be changed until it is faced. And that is what Christopher Reeve did. He faced what was happening in his life. And when you begin to look at being free of all discord, you have to face what is actually happening. If we want to call ourselves spiritually mature, if we want to evolve in our teaching, we cannot just perform freedom. Sometimes we call that spiritual bypassing, right? Everything's good. It's all great. Moving along, moving around that discord, pretending that it's not there. Gonna just put it right behind me. Do not look at the discord. Anything for a laugh. But we have to actually feel it, and then we can begin to believe it. So, Christopher Reeve, did his condition change, or did his idea about the condition change? And in becoming that free, Christopher Reeve taught me in my teenage selfishness, in my little bubble of feeling like I was at risk for losing freedom. The path to embodied freedom is not to bypass what the body is saying. It is to move through it and to be with it. You cannot only seek comfort. You will not have the greatest access to freedom. So how do we do that? Luckily for us, we have practices. We meditate. Do you guys know that as a part of your learning this philosophy, we ask you to meditate every day. Why do we do that? So that you can learn to sit in uncomfort. So that you can have a practice every day where you sit down and you sit with what is. Sometimes your mind's going to go crazy. Sometimes your back is going to itch and you're just going to want to get up and go scratch that itch. Sometimes the phone is going to ring and the list is going to be going in your head. But if you can't sit there for 1 minute, just start with 1 minute every day and be with what is. How are you going to be with what is when the real triggers come? You won't have a practice for it. We have to build our capacity by doing little, tiny, hard things. And that is how we build our ability to feel and be with freedom as well. Your meditation teaches you to pause, notice the presence, so that when you do get triggered, not me, I don't ever get triggered. Ha 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 ha, that's right, that was a joke. I get triggered. I'm married. I have kids. May or may not have a homeless man living in my garage. The first pause that allows us to witness the presence lets us get curious. And when we have paused and noticed the presence and started to get curious, we can move through things. I'm not telling you how you're going to move through it. You might come and get prayer here. You might go to a therapist. You might ask one of our ministers for some time to help grapple with this and help you see your way through freedom. You might need to go to a doctor. You might need a yoga retreat in Mallorca. Yes, that's it. That's what I need. But you have to be able to move through it and be with it. Then, if necessary, you can go back and make things right. You can rewrite your own story. You can repair a situation with someone you have harmed. This is how we build capacity for freedom that doesn't infringe upon others. We stick with the hard stuff and we move through it. You can even go back and do your taxes if you mess those up. We continue to begin again and again and again. This is a willingness to live fully in and as the expression of freedom. It's not perfection. This works with everything, not just the discord stories we make up in our head about how much we weigh, or how our wrinkles look, or how our children are doing, or blah, 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 blah. It works with everything. Even if you're just walking up a hard hill, even if you're trying to find the money to pay the next bills. All of these things require us to be and to live the spiritual principle that is our birthright, freedom. So in closing, I'm going to share with you the movements and a couple of statements from what we practice in some of our classes. It's called Fear to Faith. And they come with movements, and I'm going to have you repeat after me and do the movements. You're going to go with your left hand first. You're going to say, I release my belief in limitation. I release my belief in limitation. I release my need to control. I release my need to control. I am grateful for the freedom I am. I am grateful for the freedom I am. Again, I release my belief in limitation. I release my need to control. I am grateful for the freedom I am. One more time. I release my belief in limitation. I release my need to control. I am grateful for the freedom I am. Go be free. I love you guys. Thank you.